Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Um, Thank you all for being here tonight. I appreciate it. Um, this course is, after this, completely asynchronous. So it's entirely you choose when you want to get on and do work. The lectures are all recorded, so you can watch them at any time. There is a schedule when things are due that you should follow, but it's fairly generous, so I think you shouldn't have any problems with that. I will open my Zoom room, my personal Zoom room, not this scheduled meeting one, every Monday evening and Wednesday afternoon for what I term office hours, even though as an adjunct, I don't actually get paid for office hours. Just so you have a set time that you can check in if you have a question about something. But I'm delighted to entertain questions at any time. The best way to reach me is via Canvas Messenger. If you send something to my school email, I will see it because I do check that regularly. But I'm more likely to see it in Canvas just because I'm there all the time. I check Canvas numerous times daily once class is in session. So I'm always checking to see if anybody needs anything. And I'm delighted to set up specific meetings at times that work for you if the regular times that I have my Zoom room open are not convenient. That's one of the joys of teaching online, and the fact that I'm really at home most of the time. I can be very free with my schedule. So if you need to get together at some other time, please just let me know and we can arrange a time that's convenient for you. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to go over the syllabus, the Canvas site, and what you're going to find on Pearson's MyLab site and what you're going to need to be doing there. There's lots of information about that, of course, on Canvas. And obviously, some of you have already taken a look at it because I note that I have 7 people that have already set up their MyLab accounts. Yay, that makes me so happy. Because the sooner you get going in that, the sooner you can get started and get stuff done. It helps so much to just jump in and start working because we run up against deadlines at the end of the course, and since this course is only 9 weeks, you don't want to find yourself in the last week of the course with a whole ton of stuff still to do because you dragged your feet at the beginning. So don't do that. Just jump in, get going. If you have questions, let me know. That's what I'm here for. I before we get started looking at specific things, you do really need to have access to a Windows PC or laptop. Now, a lot of this can be done on a Mac, but not all of it. The Microsoft Office versions of the individual softwares for Mac are somewhat different. And even though you get those for free, and there's a video on Canvas that shows you how to download it for free, and I'm not talking about Office 365, I'm talking about the full installed version of Office. Even though you get that for free, the practical exams that are essentially the applications portion of your final use the real software. They're not the simulations that you do for learning activities. And if the version is not the same, which it is not for the Mac, there are going to be some differences and things that you think you might have right, you might not. And you might get marked down on it and not understand why you got marked down on it until you go and look and see, oh, well, it says I didn't do this, that, or that. And, that wasn't there in the version that you had because you were trying to do it on Office 365 or you were trying to do it on the Mac version of Word. And the feature that they're wanting you to use just isn't there. So it's important that at that point you have access to a Windows machine. Now, we do have labs all over campus that you can go in and use. There's a huge one in the library. There's a smaller one in the business division building. You probably have to check with the business division office to find out what hours that's available. But the lab in the library is open anytime the library is, and it's big enough that I don't think access would be a problem. So if that's the way you're going to need to get to that for those activities, then that's what you'll have to do. If you don't have one that you can borrow. Back in, oh, another body. Hello, person. Back in the massive lockdown times during COVID, we had a lot of loaner computers that students were checking out because everybody was doing everything online. I don't know what happened to them all. I think they do still have loaners available that you can check out. I don't know if there's a restricted time period or what, but it might be worth checking into if that might be an issue for you. As far as doing the simulations themselves, because it's web-based, you can certainly do it from a Mac computer, but because the keyboards are different, you're going to run into an issue where you need to press certain keys. Now, the simulations have built into them a virtual keyboard that you can use to cover those instances, but it's kind of a giant pain in the drain to do things that way. Just saying, it can be done. Yeah, it doesn't have to be a a game stopper. It does not have to. Okay, so let me share my screen and we'll take a look at Canvas and see what all is going on there. That would be that guy. Okay, and then we're over here to home. And does everybody see CIT 15 week 1? You can give me a thumbs up or nod. All right, cool. Okay, so this is the homepage for our Canvas site for this course. It will change every week and it will have everything that is ostensibly being introduced new this week. Now, everything except attendance and the final exam is already available to you. So if you are an ambitious sort and want to not only jump in feet first, but dive right in and start working ahead, it's there. You're welcome to. I have no problem with that whatsoever. The only problem you might run into is for the discussions having to do with each chapter or each week. There is your initial response to the prompt for the discussion. That's the major part of your grade for that assignment. But you also need to reply to another one of one of your fellow students. So obviously you can't do that until somebody else has posted a response as well. So the sooner everybody jumps in and does their initial response, then the sooner everybody can reply to each other. You can start a conversation. I mean, you don't have to back and forth a gazillion times. Just one response to one other student is fine. But that would be something that you might get delayed in if you're trying to do the entire semester stuff in the first 3 weeks. So you might have to come back and look at those discussions again, see what other people have said, and then respond to those. You do have to do your own initial response to the prompt before you can see what other people have said. I'm pretty sure that's the way I said it. At any rate, so the homepage for each week will present everything rather graphically. So everything is lined out. Like in week 1, there's a video that you can watch and you can see it there. There's a suggestion to review the syllabus, information about how to register with my IT lab, how to download Microsoft Office for free. Anything that's a graded assignment will have one of these blue check marks with it. Anything that's just course content won't. So, it says read the chapter. Well, you don't get graded on reading the chapter, but you do get graded on doing the chapter quiz. So that one has a blue check mark. So anything that has a blue check mark is a graded assignment. Watching videos, in many cases, I mean, I definitely suggest that you watch my lecture videos, particularly this first one. I really like that one. Um, in many cases, you will find the videos present information that's relevant to the chapter or to the discussion topic. Sometimes they're just things that I think are interesting about the content and or add to it or something like that. Here's a video that guides you through using MyLab IT. So if you've never used one of the Pearson MyLabs before, you might find that very useful. If you're familiar with it, you could probably skip that. But again, it's presented in a fairly visual way. Now, we also have the modules. I'm going to switch over to that page and open up the module for, no, that's week 2. The modules are much more streamlined. So there's one for each week of the course. And here it's just a list of stuff. So course content is at the top. First week meetings. There is a page about the first week meetings. You can go and look at it. Obviously, you already know about that because you're here. There's a link to that video that you can watch or that you can not watch. It's got some interesting language. So, if that might bother you, don't watch it. That's okay. Links to the pages that hold all the other stuff that's going on as far as course content for week 1. And then, I've actually separated out the links to the graded stuff. So if you want to go straight to the stuff that you got to do for your grade, there it is in that group there. And of course, all of the modules are available to you. The pages will come up each week as, we get to that week. So I have an alarm that goes off at 8 o'clock every Monday morning that reminds me to change the homepage and do a few other things that I, usually do on Monday mornings, but that's one of the things. So weeks begin on Monday morning. That means that anything that's due at the end of that week is due before midnight the next Sunday. Okay. I like that because that gives you the weekend to, panic about stuff that's coming up due. We'll talk about due dates as we take a more detailed look at the syllabus. But, you can approach getting to your stuff either using the weekly homepage or using the modules, whichever one you prefer. Once you've done all the stuff or looked at all the stuff for a week, you can collapse that week so you don't have to see all that stuff and then move on to the next week. Open up the next week and there's all of its stuff. So the modules are useful and, there's usually links to the previous week's stuff in the homepage for that week. There's also links in the sidebar to all the discussion assignments if you want to go straight to those. There's a link directly to the syllabus. There's a link to grades. So that's something that you want to check on a regular basis to see, what you've done, what you haven't done. We have links to the library and tutorial services. There are a few links that you guys can't see in your view. Let me switch to student view so that looks more like what you all see. Okay, there, that's more like it. Name Coach, that's a lovely one. For those of you that haven't used Name Coach before, it would be so delightful if you would. Name Coach is a service where you go in and you give it your phone number, and if you would like to, you could choose your preferred pronouns if that is important to you. If not, you can ignore it. Then the system calls you, and it's essentially like an answering machine type thing. And what you do is you pronounce your name aloud so that I can then go in, or any of your instructors can go in and see your name listed and then hear how your name is pronounced so that we can do it properly. Or if there's a nickname that you prefer to use. I always like to address people the way they like to be addressed. And names can be interesting. My own children have interesting names. When your last name is Jones, you sometimes like to give your children interesting names. And my kids' names are all good Celtic names. Um, some of them are a little bit more approachable than others. My younger son's name is probably the most difficult one. His first name is spelled Ciaran. Y'all can think for a minute about how you might pronounce that. But I can't tell you how many doctor's visits we've gone to where the person that calls you in comes out, looks at their sheet, looks up, looks at their sheet, looks up, and then just says, Jones. It's pronounced Kieran, but no. Very common name in Ireland, but not here at any rate. So if you want to do that, I would appreciate it very much. Um, I do like to pronounce people's names the way they like to hear them pronounced. So I would appreciate that. There is a chat for this class. So far, I haven't seen any students use it ever. But I have seen a lot of interaction in the discussions, and that makes me very happy. Speaking of which, I note that quite a few of you have already gone in and started doing the first week discussion, which is basically introducing yourself. Thank you so much for getting that going. I appreciate it. As we move forward, I would like to remind you that when you post to the discussions, and particularly when you respond to somebody else's posts, it's perfectly okay to disagree with people as long as you do it politely and respectfully. Um, you know, and if you disagree, it's really nice to say why you disagree. Um, you know, Obviously, I don't think anybody's going to go in there and say, well, you're just an idiot that you think that, because everybody knows this is true. Because, that's not what we're about, really. This isn't Reddit. And, we have a need to be far more polite than that. But I just want to remind you guys that it's okay to disagree. And it's perfectly fine to have differing opinions about things, as long as we respect other people's opinions and realize that, they have their own reasons for thinking the way they do. And I've seen lots of occasions, particularly this last semester, I saw quite a few instances where students came in and in their response, they said, when I first read this, I thought this. And then I read your response to that, and I realized that there was an aspect of that I had never really thought about before. And now I've changed my mind. So be open. You never know what you might find out. And have fun with the discussions. I think some of them are really, really interesting, and I hope that you will find them that way as well. But let's take a peek at, let me go back to week 1 module. Oh, how interesting. They're all different now that I'm in student view. Okay, so let's just take a look at how some of these things work. The first thing that you need to do every week is go to attendance. Now, attendance, it's just a really silly thing. It's a 1-question quiz. It's a true-false question. The statement for the true-false is, I'm here. The answer is true. False was funny once years ago. It's basically just something that establishes that you checked in during that week. It's only available during that week. You get a point for it. It counts towards your discussion grades. And it's an easy way for me to report on attendance, since, we don't have set meetings that you guys have to show up for. Oh, by the way, if you all wouldn't mind, could you just type your full name and your student ID number into the chat for me, just so I have a record of everything that showed up at this meeting? I would appreciate that so much. At any rate, you click on that, you click on the link for take the quiz, you do it, no big deal. We go back to the module. The next thing, I'm just going to close all of these. Don't know why they're all open because of being in student view. 9 weeks just doesn't seem like long enough to do everything, but oh, well, we'll get through it. I know we will. I had a 9-week version of CIT 15, which has 4 more chapters and 2 more programs last semester. So we got through that. Anyway, the next thing is the discussion. So here's the link to this week's discussion. You'll read the prompt. It describes what the discussion is about. In this case, we're just asking you to introduce yourself, give us a little information about you, nothing too personal. We're not trying to pry into your private life at all. Maybe a little bit about your educational goals, stuff like that, something that you hope to get out of this class. Maybe something that you think might interfere with your ability to manage this class, or although if there's something that you think I might be able to help you with, a direct message to me would be more appropriate there. But something about what you like to do online, social media that you prefer, stuff like that. Again, it doesn't have to be too personal, and although you can get that way if you are interested. Once you've posted your response to the prompt, and in ones that are, I shouldn't say more specific because this is fairly specific, ones that are more relevant to the subject matter for the class rather than just being general introductions, there may be a video that you need to watch that talks about stuff relevant to the discussion topic, in addition to the prompt itself, before you post your response to it. Or there may be some things that you need to do, a website that I'd like you to visit and check something out before you respond to the discussion prompt. But once you've done that, then you type in your response. Or if you like, you can do a video response. So far, nobody's done that. I personally don't like filming myself, so I can understand that. But you're welcome to do that if you would like to. And then once you've done that, you'll be able to see responses to the prompt that other students have posted. And so then you can respond back to one of those. I'm not looking for massive essays here. Some people like to get really in depth in their responses, and that's great, but you don't have to. However, it does need to be something a little bit more than I agree or I disagree. A few complete sentences would be delightful. And I, really do want to hear your own thoughts, so something a little bit more than just, I didn't like this website or something like that. So at any rate, so that's the discussion assignments. Back to the module. There we go. The chapter 1 quiz. There's going to be one on every chapter. 20 multiple choice questions. These are quizzes, but they're not tests. They're learning activities. My personal suggestion is that you split your screen, open up your textbook on one side of the screen and the quiz on the other side of the screen, and look at the questions, find the answers in the chapter. Is that learning? Yes, of course it's learning. Does it mean you read the chapter from word 1 to word final? Not necessarily. But did you get the information from the chapter? Yeah, you did. If that's not your style, read the chapter, then take the quiz. See how you did. Maybe read the chapter again, take the quiz again. You can do the quizzes as many times as you like until you're happy with your score. What I will see is the highest score you achieved. I don't even care how many times you took it. I don't think I actually see that unless I go looking for it. So I just see your highest score, and if I look at it and a week later you take that quiz again and it's higher, then that's what goes in. Now, they do disappear after a while. We'll talk about due dates as we go into the syllabus. I just wanted to look at the mechanics of how everything works on the site first. But yeah, you have unlimited attempts on those, and you can approach them in any way, shape, or form that you like. Be advised, though, that when you retake a quiz, you may see different questions because it draws randomly from a pool of questions, and that random selection is likely to be different every time. There's not a gazillion questions. So if you took it like 10 times, you'd probably start seeing the same questions over again. But, you probably will see some repeats if you do it a number of times. I doubt that you will find a need to do that. They're not that difficult. And they're multiple choice, so the answer's there, right? Yeah. And followed by whatever labs are assigned for this week from my IT lab. So what you're going to see when you click on one of those is, come on, I clicked on it there. Just a description. This is basically a placeholder for that because you'll get graded in my lab. And then I will move your grade over here into Canvas so that you can see your scores all in one place. And there's a link that's go to my IT lab that just takes you to the website from my lab. Because obviously I can't link directly into your account. Would be nice, but I can't. So it just takes you to the general website. You log into your account and go on from there. And by the way, forgive me if I confuse you by sometimes calling it my IT lab and sometimes calling it my lab IT. It used to be my IT lab and now it's my lab IT. And I generally use both depending on what pops out of my mouth. So let's see. Now, some modules are going to have more stuff in them than others. Let's see, week 2. Oh, in week 2 in the course content, there's a thing about office hours. So if you want to come into office hours that week, there will be a link there to my personal Zoom room. There might be more resource material just because I've got lots of interesting stuff to share with you, or there might be more than one lab assigned in that week. Like week 2 has two PowerPoint labs. They're not that hard, so that's okay. And you have plenty of time to get them done. But generally you're going to see each time there's the course content stuff that you can read, stuff that you can look at, and then there's the graded assignments, stuff that you need to do. Okay. Let's see what else we've got here. Obviously, grades. You all know how to check your grades, I hope. And the syllabus. That's the important thing that we need to look at here. So this is where all the important information is that you need to know about. This is what if we had an in-person class, I would print out. Actually, no, I don't even print it out and hand it to people anymore. We just go over it on the screen since everybody can clock into their Canvas course in the computer labs, which is where we would teach this anyway. And why kill all those trees? Anyway, this is where all the information specific to this course is, like there's me, Sarah Jones, office. I have none. There's my email address, but the best way to contact me is through the Canvas Messenger, just because I check it more often than I check the regular email. You can also leave a message for me at the Business Division office phone number, but really, if it's that urgent, I'm more likely to get the message sooner if you just go through Canvas and leave me a message. There's also a link to that personal Zoom room for office hours. Again, Monday evenings at 7:30, Wednesday afternoons at 3. I figure, that way there's one evening and one afternoon. I've, tried to accommodate most people. But again, if those hours just don't work for you on the reg, please just contact me and we'll set up a private meeting to talk about whatever it is that you need help with. I'm delighted to do that. You can also just send me a really detailed question in a Canvas message. Include a screenshot of whatever it is that's driving you nuts. Or, tell me, I'm having a really bad problem with this specific task in this particular simulation in my lab. And, that way I can front load myself and take a look at it and say, oh yeah, I remember when I did that one, I had a bitch of a time with, that particular thing too, because if you don't get it exactly on the little thing, then it thinks you're doing the wrong thing. And, so hopefully I can help. Whatever works for you is great. Course information. Here we are, CIT 12, computer literacy, our section number, our dates, the fact that it's asynchronous online, the stuff we're covering, important dates. Today's date, for instance, very important. Holidays don't really come into effect, even though it's a Monday holiday. I'll probably still have my Zoom room open because, where am I going to go? I'm glued to the house most of the time. By the way, just so you know, the reason that I'm glued to the house most of the time is my main job is taking care of my oldest son. He's a bedbound quadriplegic, and I am his primary caregiver. He can't leave the house, so I don't leave the house unless there's somebody else at home. I have a nurse that comes in 2 afternoons a week so that I can get some errands done. But other than that, it's me here. Unless it's, school vacation, because my husband and my daughter are both teachers as well. So they're home during school vacation times. So I get a little more free time then. But that's why I'm here most of the time. So teaching online works out really well for me. Anyway, course text and materials. My IT lab, Office 2019, access code. If you purchase your access code from the library, from the bookstore on campus, you will pay a great deal more for it. I believe last semester it was in the nature of $135. If you buy it directly through Pearson in the process of registering for the class, I believe it's still $79. Now, if you are getting financial aid funds for school materials, then you pretty much have to go through the bookstore. So you don't have a choice. Hopefully they've gotten the difficulties that we had last semester ironed out about the access codes, because last semester everybody got codes that didn't work. But it would be really nice if you all were able to manage this without the headaches that we went through last semester. So fingers crossed for that. But again, if you're paying for this yourself, you definitely want to buy it directly from Pearson so that you're not spending an extra 40 some bucks. This gives you your access to the program, which includes all the learning simulations, the final exam, the practical exams, and your textbook. So you have to have this. You cannot complete the course without it. It's web-based, so it will run on a Mac or a Windows computer. As I mentioned before, the simulations are assuming that you're using a Windows machine, even though they're web-based. So it will ask you to use keys that are not on a Mac keyboard, but there is a virtual keyboard built in that you can use, even though it's kind of a pain when you need to do stuff that involves keys that aren't on a Mac keyboard. So it will work up to the point where you do the practical exams, which we'll look at in a few minutes. You do need this code, Fresno City College 74526, in order to register for the correct course. Pretty sure I've changed that code every place that this is mentioned in Canvas, because a lot of the material I copy over from previous courses. Excuse me. Had to do quite a bit of editing this semester because I moved from CIT 15 classes to CIT 12 classes. So there was a lot of stuff that I had to take out and shuffle around. So I'm pretty sure I got it covered every place that's mentioned. If you're in any doubt, just make sure you come here to the syllabus and use that one because I know that one's right. Student learning outcomes. At the end of this course, the student will be able to use a word processor, use a spreadsheet. We also cover PowerPoint, so, presentation software. Demonstrate fluency in computer terminology and the use of information systems in business. We have an advisory for English, various courses mentioned there. Basically, what that means is that if English is not your first language and you struggle a little bit, you may need some additional assistance. And we have assistance available to you. We have tutors that are devoted to the CIT 12 and 15 courses. All you have to do is let me know that you might need a little extra help and I will get you hooked up with them. I haven't gotten an email about specific tutoring hours yet, but I expect to see that sometime this week. But whatever help you might need, we're happy to give it. We just, need to know that you need it. Canvas. We're all about Canvas. There's a lot going on in Canvas. There are assignments that you do specifically in Canvas. There are assignments that happen in my lab and your grades get moved over into Canvas. But in the end, everything's going to show up in Canvas for your final grade. So make sure that you're comfortable working in Canvas. I have some instructions here for if you haven't used Canvas before and you need to, get in there and get going. But obviously this is in Canvas. So there are instructions in the course catalog on the FCC website. So, that's where this is copied from. So let's talk about grades, which is what everybody cares about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everything is weighted. So we have some basic categories: discussions, quizzes, labs, lab tests, and the final exam. Okay? Discussions are 20% of your grade. The quizzes are 25% of your grade. The simulation trainings, the labs, actually that should say simulation exams, are 30% of your grade. It's a big chunk. Applications are important here. The lab tests, which are also applications, are 15% of your grade. The final exam, that's the text-based portion of the final, is 10% of your grade. So when you look at these individual things, you'll see that they're all worth a certain number of points. Bear in mind that all of your points in that category get lumped together, and then all those points go to make up that group's percentage of your grade. Okay? So when you look at your grades in Canvas, you're going to see your individual scores, and then you should see a percentage for that category and then your overall score. Okay? And it's fairly straightforward. But if you have any questions about how that's all coming together, please don't hesitate to ask. I'm delighted to look at it with you at any time. As I mentioned, things that get graded in my lab, I have to move them over into Canvas. Unfortunately, my lab and Canvas do not talk to each other yet as well as we would like them to. So I will manually move scores over. I generally do that once a week. That's what I do Monday mornings. I go through, after I've changed the home page, I look at anything on Canvas that needs to be graded that I haven't already graded, although I usually grade things on Canvas at least twice a week, especially because this is a short-term class that I know you guys want to see what's going on a regular basis. So I grade anything that still needs to be graded there. And then I move anything from Canvas over into, anything from my lab over into Canvas so that you can see everything in one place and see where you stand overall. The one thing that I would want to caution you on in looking at your overall grades is that if you have not submitted something, then your grade for that item is not included. So your overall grade could appear better than it actually is if you take into consideration something that has come due, but you haven't actually submitted yet. Does that make sense? Yeah. At any rate, standard scale for grades. To get an A, you need 90% or better overall, a B, 80%, C, 70%, D, 60%, and below 60% is going to be, you're going to probably need to retake that class. Did I hear a question or? No? Okay. Feel free to interrupt me if you have a question. I will entertain questions before I let you guys go, but if something pops up that you want to jump in with a question, please feel free. All right, let's talk about due dates and lates and all of that sort of stuff. Ideally, you would do all the work in the week that it's presented or before, since a lot of it is already available to you. That would keep you on pace or ahead of the pace. But life happens, and sometimes we get a little behind. Stuff that's introduced in week 1 is not due until the end of week 2. And then there's a grace period after that. Now, if you go past that due date into that grace period, you can still turn it in, but there's going to be a small points penalty for going past that due date. Okay? When you get to the end of the grace period, then the assignment disappears. That's it. We just don't have time to mess around past that. Okay? So I think that's pretty generous, and it seems to work pretty well for getting everything in a timely basis. So again, stuff is introduced in week 1. It's due at the end of week 2, but you can still turn it in clear to the end of week 3. Now, if you're thinking, you're realizing that as we get towards the end of our course into weeks 8 and 9, we're going to lose that extension period. That's why I make everything available right from the beginning, except of course attendance and the final, so that you can plan for that and not count on having that extra time when we're already in week 9, because that's not going to happen. Okay, so think about that in advance, and I'll be reminding you of it as we get towards that. And again, weeks begin on Monday morning and Sunday night at 11:59. So if you want it to count as being before the due date, you got to get it in before midnight. Okay? The points penalty for turning it in during that grace period gets bigger the farther into the grace period that you go. So, if you realize on Monday morning, oh crap, I forgot to turn that in before the due date, you're not going to get hit too hard if you get it in Monday morning. You wait till the next weekend, that's going to hit a little harder. Okay. And while we're talking about stuff like that, no quizzes, nothing is accepted after it disappears. Yeah. So it's gone. And of course, nothing can be turned in after the last day of the course, which is the Friday of that last week, not the Sunday, because I need the weekend to get all the grades finalized and turned in Monday morning, because they are due that following Monday. I don't get a grace period on that at all. Our drop policy: any student who fails to do any work at all during the first week might be dropped by the instructor. After that date, you need to take personal responsibility and decide for yourself whether or not you wish to remain in this course. It may be that, by the end of week 2, you're like, this is just too fast for me, or I'm just not into this, or some terrible thing happened and I'm just not going to be able to have the time to devote to this because of life. I totally get it. But it's up to you to drop the course so that you are not still on my roster at the end of the course and I have to give you a grade and you've turned nothing in. So guess what that grade is going to be?
F.
Yeah, exactly. So, take care of yourselves. The first week, I'm pretty proactive about bugging you guys to get those My Lab accounts set up and get some stuff done. If you haven't at least checked in for attendance, you're going to hear from me. After that, you're going to see zeros show up on stuff because you haven't turned it in. Once it's past the due date, I might plug in a 0 just so that your grade is accurate, but you're still in the grace period, so you can still turn it in, and that 0 will turn to whatever grade you get. So, if the grace period is still active on something, don't panic because you saw a 0 there. You can still turn it in as long as the grace period is still going. Any student who has not upgraded their account from a trial account to a fully paid account by the end of week 1, we're talking about the MyLab account here. When you go to sign up for MyLab, yes, ideally you should pay the $79 or use your access code from the bookstore immediately. But, I've been through this enough times to know that not everybody has the $79 or the whatever right now, this minute. There's a free trial. You can set up an account and use the free trial for 14 days. Don't make it last 14 days. Okay? Get that account paid for and fully activated. If you let that account lapse, you will not be able to get back into it easily. So get it fully paid for. If you're using the free trial, and that's great, that's what it's for, give you a chance to get in there and get started working while you're waiting for your next paycheck to come in so that you can pay for it or whatever it is, your financial aid funds or however, you're getting it paid for. You can still do your work. When you're using that, when you log into your account, you'll see a little thing that says you have this many days left on your free trial. When you're ready to pay for that, you click on that link and it will take you to where you pay for it. And I think you can use PayPal now. So you can, PayPal or use a debit card or a credit card, which is great. We have some options as to how we do that. So get those accounts upgraded so that I don't have to threaten to drop you. I, like to sound really fierce about that. And when it gets right down to it, I'm probably a big pushover, but anyway, get it taken care of for both of our sakes. Yeah. So I don't have to nag you and you don't have to listen to me nag. Okay. Behavior policy. We're required to put this into our syllabus. Basically, that applies to how you interact with your fellow students in the discussions.
I think Crystal had a question.
Crystal?
Yes.
Question?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Barely.
Okay. Back to the My Lab IT.
Yes.
So you're fully aware of my situation, right? Where it's just not letting me go in. And do I have access to that 14-day while I get that resolved when I call customer service tomorrow?
Um,
Or should I just try to work with them and see and go from there?
was yours originally a 14-day free trial or
No.
no,
I
that's right.
went
You
and
paid for it.
the 79,
Um,
yeah.
I would not suggest that you do a separate account and use the 14-day free trial because then you would have grades in 2 different places.
Ooh, okay.
And that would not be great.
Yeah. Okay. I'll reach
So
out to them. Hopefully they can help me.
if
Yeah.
you're not able to resolve that issue by the means that I suggested, I would get on with tech support like first thing in the morning tomorrow,
Okay.
or maybe even this evening. You know,
Mhm.
do it ASAP
Okay.
because yeah,
All right. Thank you.
you want to get that taken care of. Like I said, when push comes to shove, I'm a big pushover. And as long as I know you're trying to get it resolved and taken care of, we'll be fine. But yeah. Um, so anyway, um, back on the behavior policy. Um, Again, this applies really only to how we interact with each other on the discussion boards. Just be polite. And, if you're in one of the labs, be polite, that sort of thing. And we have the usual remarks about cheating. Um, there's almost nothing in this class that you could cheat on. The final itself is completely open book. It's online. How am I going to stop you using the book to do it? Um, the only thing I would say that you could possibly cheat on would be the files that you submit for the practical exams, because the way the practical exams work, you're in my lab, you get a set of files and some instructions to work on. You then open those files and work through the instructions in the actual program. When you've done all the instructions, you save your file, and then you take that file and you upload it back to my lab. I have in the past had students who tried to upload somebody else's file because they knew somebody that had already done it and had gotten a good grade on it, not realizing that the file you download is encoded with your student information. And if you try and upload somebody else's file, that's encoded with somebody else's information, and it gets flagged when I go to look at grades as a possible cheating violation. So don't do that. Okay? I have no problem with you working with each other on that. If you want to start a discussion on, how to get through those, or if you want to ask me, if you want to come to office hours and say, can we take a look at this? Because I'm really confused as to what this instruction is telling me. That's fine. I'm glad to help with it. In a face-to-face class, we would do those exams in the classroom together. I mean, I wouldn't walk you through it the way I would walk you through a demonstration, but I'd be there as a resource. Your, fellow students would be there, and you could say, "Hey, did anybody figure out how to do this?" And and you say, "Yeah, I thought, yeah, yeah." So, if you're having difficulties with it, ask, but don't turn in somebody else's file because that's just going to cause both of us a headache. Okay. And there's some stuff about the network use policy, students with disabilities policy. If you have a specific need because of a disability, you have to go through disabled student services, and they will let me know what accommodations we need to make. I'm delighted to do that. It just has to be done in a specific fashion so that we know that we've covered all of our bases. And again, I'm delighted to meet with you at just about any time. Just let me know. We'll set up a meeting and, get all that done. The last thing in the syllabus is basically a calendar of everything that comes due in this course. So you can follow it along there. I find that to be a very useful feature. Now, the next thing that I want to take a look at is my lab, just so you guys are all familiar with what's going on there. So let me change my screen share, new share, and we're going to go to, oh, no, I'm still on this because it's still in this browser. Pretty sure. Okay. So we're sharing that. You don't want to see me buy dinnerware. There we go. Okay. So this is, well, let me go back to my courses. Do y'all see my courses? Yeah, okay. So this is what I see when I come in. And if you have more than one course that uses a MyLab, then you'll see additional boxes here too. I have one for you guys and one for the course that starts the second 9 weeks, which I haven't fixed yet. Again, if you're using the 14-day free trial, you're going to see a little pink box that you would click on when you're ready to pay for it. But generally, you just click there and it takes you into your course. And this is student view. Should look like student view. There's a whole bunch of stuff on the left side, but there's only a few things that you really need to work with. The first one is, well, you always need to check your grades, but the other main one is course materials. And so let me click on course materials. It's going to take a second to pop up there. And am I in student view? Yeah, I'm in student view. So course materials looks like this. There's another thing that says course materials. Then there's a line for each of the major applications that we use: Windows, PowerPoint, Word, and Excel. And then there's one that says exams. Okay. Course materials is where you're going to find your textbook. So click again on textbook. And there are actually 2 textbooks. The main one is Technology in Action, and then there's an applications textbook, which you don't need to read. I believe that you can access it directly from the simulations, or you can go and read it on your own if you want to, but the simulations should cover most of the training that you need. But it's there if you want it. The textbook and all the simulations, when you click on them to open them up, will open up in a pop-up window. So it's important that you have your pop-up blockers turned off, at least for Pearson. You can leave them on for other sites, but you need to turn them off for this. Also, it's very important that you use a browser that MyLab gets along with. It gets along best with Chrome and Firefox. It absolutely does not like Internet Explorer. It has been known to balk at Safari. I haven't heard a whole lot of reports of problems with the new Microsoft one, which is Edge, but then that doesn't necessarily mean that it works well. It just means that I haven't heard that it works badly. So I know you're good in Chrome and Firefox, and those are both free. So I strongly suggest those. And again, you do need to turn off your pop-up blocker. Let me go back to course materials there. The next ones, Windows 10, PowerPoint, Word, Excel. When you click on one of those, I'm just going to go to Word as an example. You should see the simulation exams for that application. I strongly suggest that you do them in order. You don't have to, but you should. Hello?
Yeah.
Just because they do build on things that are covered in the earlier one. Now, I have them set for exam mode, but I have built the trainings in. So the reason for this is I don't like to assume that you guys know nothing about these applications, that you've never looked at them before. It may be that you've never looked at them before, and that's fine if you haven't. The training is all there for you. But if you have, then you don't have to waste your time being taught how to do things you already know how to do. You can just do them. Okay? So if an instruction in a simulation tells you to do something and you know how to do it, do it. If it tells you to do something and you don't know how to do it, there's a little thing in the control panel called learning aids. Okay? You can read about it. You can watch a demonstration. You can have the demonstration walk you through the steps. Your choice how you want to learn about it. But you only have to learn about the things that you don't already know how to do. To me, that saves a lot of time. So if you're a complete neophyte at Excel, you're going to be spending more time with the learning aids than somebody who's already done some work in Excel before. So probably a good idea not to wait till the last minute to start the Excel ones, if you know that's going to be something new for you. But again, if you need the help, it's there. And I do strongly suggest that you work through them in order. You have multiple attempts on each of these exams. You also have multiple attempts on the tasks within the exams. And because I have the learning aids turned on, if you use up all of your attempts on a task, it will automatically turn the learning aids on and start your attempts all over again. So we're there to help. If you use up your given attempts on one of these and you're still not happy with your score and would like another attempt, just let me know and I can delete one of your previous attempts and give you another shot at something. So just pop me a message and you can look at it again. Okay. Again, these open up in pop-up windows. So if you don't turn off your pop-up blockers, you're not going to see anything. The last one here is exams. Eventually, you're going to see your final exam here. Right now, if you click on final, you probably don't see anything. Let me just check. Yep, there's nothing there because it's not available to you until the last week of the course. Okay? The office hands-on tests, however, those are all available to you. As you can see, I've already done them and I got 100% on them. The reason I've already done them is so that I could put a picture of my results up in Canvas so that you can take a look and see what yours should look like before you submit it. You're welcome. I find some of the instructions to be just a little bit on the ambiguous side. So if you have a picture of what you're aiming for, I think that helps a lot, right? Yeah. Anyway, you do have 2 attempts on these. And again, if you would like another, let me know. Okay. Now, these do disappear after a certain date. So you want to make sure that you get them taken care of before they disappear, so that you can take full advantage of your attempts. Okay. So try to think if there's anything else in here that you guys need to know about. And of course, there is a video in Canvas that kind of walks you through doing one of the simulations, demonstrates how everything works on that. So if you haven't done one of these before, I suggest taking a look at that video just so you can, have an idea of what you're getting into before you do that.
I have a question.
Yes.
So regarding about like the quizzes, do your lecture videos cover what's on the quiz or not?
They cover generally the topic covered by the chapter. Sometimes there's specific stuff that I talk about that is going to pop up in a question. Sometimes not. Sometimes I take a very general approach to the chapter material, and sometimes I get into very specific things. It just depends, which is why I suggest that you have that textbook open to the chapter while you're looking at the quiz questions. Because, I mean, why not? If you've listened to the lecture, you may look at those questions and say, oh, hey, she talked about that, she talked about that, she talked about that. So I know what she's talking about. And yeah, I'm pretty sure the answer is that because of what she talked about. And then you'll look at a question and say, I don't remember her saying that specifically. Maybe I missed it, or maybe she didn't actually talk about that. Look over at the textbook page and type a keyword into the search and it'll take you to where the chapter talks about that. You're like, oh, okay, that's what it is. Then you put the answer in. Yeah, that's learning.
Yep.
Absolutely. Finding the answer to a question is learning. Yay. All right. Let me look at my list to make sure I covered everything I wanted to cover here. Create assignments, course content, syllabus, course materials. I think I covered everything. All right. Okay, so here's me again. Any other general questions for me? And again, I'm delighted to talk to you guys anytime. Just pop me a message. We can get together in my Zoom room, or we can just exchange messages back and forth, whatever works for you. I am going to be placing a recording of either this meeting or the Wednesday afternoon, probably this one, just because now we've got it, in the week 1 module. It probably won't go onto the week 1 homepage, but I'll put it into the module in case you want to refer back to this for any reason. Like why you'd want to look at me again, I don't know. But really, this will be it for scheduled meetings. So if you want to show up for office hours, delighted to see you, or schedule a meeting, also delighted to do that. But from this point on, it's kind of, the ball is in your court to take it and run with it. And this is not my real office. This is a screenshot from one of my favorite computer games, Myst. Now you know what kind of a person I am here. Just a second. There. That's my real office. Because this is also my studio. So all of my looms and my sewing machines and my spinning wheels and everything like that are in here too.
Arts and crafts.
Arts and crafts, you betcha. Fiber arts all the way. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Actually, I need to go into the introductions discussion and tell you guys a little bit about me too. So I will do that probably tomorrow morning.
Hobby Lobby.
Anything else I can answer for you before I let you guys go for the evening? I went a little over what I hoped for, but it's important information. So, all righty. Oh, now somebody's just coming in. Okay. All right. Maybe it's somebody that got bounced out and is coming back in. Okay, if you don't have any other questions for me, I will let you guys go. Thank you so much for coming to see me tonight. I do appreciate it. And hopefully I'll see you sometime in the office hours or hear from you. I'll be seeing your posts in the discussions. I don't comment on every post in the discussions, but I do pop in every once in a while and say, hey, I really liked what you said about that, or I didn't think about that myself. I'm glad you brought that up, or something like that. So watch out for me. I pop up every once in a while when you least expect me. Alrighty, I'll see you guys later. Thanks.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you, Bye.
Bye.
Mhm.